top 5 most iconic watches of all time. Some of these are without a doubt, no question, and some of them can be interchangeable with some other watches. But at the end of the day, I chose this list, and I think most people would probably agree. I'm going to start with number 5, and we're going to end with number 1. Number 1 and 2 are no surprise. 3 and 4 always on somebody's list. It's really the last watch, number 5, that people are probably going to be up in arms about, but it's on my list. I love it, and I think you should too. So let's start with that one, and that is going to be the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but the 50 Fathoms was actually the first modern day dive watch. That doesn't mean it was the first waterproof watch. It was not. It was the first modern day dive watch in terms of design and who they were marketing to and stuff like that. And yes, they beat the Rolex Submariner. The 50 Fathoms came out in 1953. The Rolex Submariner came out in 1954. Some people claim 53. It came out in 54. It was debuted. The Submariner was debuted at Baselworld in 1954. Yeah, I'm sure they were working on it in 53, but Blancpain came out with theirs first in 1953. So it is the first modern day dive watch. And that is why it has to be number 5 on the list, because dive watches right now and sports watches in general are super popular. And as we know, Swatch Group just did their version of the 50 Fathoms. I forgot what they call it, but the plastic 50 Fathoms. It's pretty cool. I would get a real one. The original is actually on my bucket list, the No Radar. I think it's one of the coolest watches ever made. And it was a military watch, which I like even more. But anyway, number 4 on our list is, to no one's surprise, and that is going to be the AP Royal Oak, designed by the legendary Gerald Genscher, who unfortunately just passed away. It came out in 1972 at pretty much the peak of the quartz crisis, which, if you don't know, is when Seiko came out with their quartz movement that was just completely decimating the entire watch market. I mean, these watches were so cheap, they were more accurate, and the build quality was decent enough where pretty much any Swiss movement watch was just done, toasted. AP said, heck no. We're not coming out with a quartz watch, and they said instead we're going to make the world's first, I should say, luxury sports watch, and they debuted the Royal Oak. It was not a very popular watch when it came out. Most great things are not popular when they come out, but it is now. It's on the wrists of every rapper I could think of, so there you go. The AP Royal Oak is number 4 on the list. Number 3 on the list is interesting because that is going to be the Patek Philippe Nautilus, the Naughty Nautilus. Now, this watch came out in 1976, 4 years after the AP Royal Oak. It was designed by the same guy that designed the AP Royal Oak, Gerald Genscher, and it was their answer to the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak was starting to pick up steam, and Patek was like, we need something. So they hired the same guy that designed that watch, and boom, you have the Nautilus. Now, the Nautilus wasn't always very popular, same as the Royal Oak. Honestly, the Nautilus didn't really pick up steam until the early 2010s, if I'm being honest. Before that, you could walk in and just go buy one. Same with an AP. You could just walk in and go buy one up until probably 2015, 2016. But yeah, it's a cool watch. I personally don't really like it that much. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for that. I think it's ugly, but a lot of people like it. It's on every rapper's wrist at some point. Every celebrity, athlete, you name it, they probably have a Nautilus. But it's one of the most iconic watches of our time and all time. So it's number 3 on the list. Number 2 on the list happens to be my personal favorite watch ever, period. You could offer me any watch in the world, and I'm still choosing this watch over every single watch that you offer me. Price point doesn't matter. And this watch truly, truly is the epitome of that, and that is going to be the Omega Speedmaster. Again, my favorite watch of all time. Came out in 1957. Initially, it was a racing watch, and it wasn't until obviously the late 60s that it went to the moon, famously. And it's the moon watch. I mean, how it's the most one of the most iconic watches of all time. It's non-disputed. You can't dispute that it's top five. You can't. You can dispute that I would take it over any other watch in the world, but the fact of the matter is, it is my favorite watch of all time, and it's my personal grail. It always has been. And when I bought my first one, when I graduated from college and got my first job, yes, they were a lot cheaper back then. They were only like $3,000. Now they're like $5-6,000. But worth it, worth every penny. Truly, truly is. And that brings us to number one on our list. This watch, you know it, you love it. It's on every list in the world. It's usually number one on every list, and it's right here, the Rolex Submariner. Now, again, this is personal preference. I like the Submariner. I know some people don't. A lot of watch enthusiasts will tell you that Rolexes are not a watch enthusiast watch. I personally am one of those guys that believe that. However, every collection still needs to have a Submariner no matter what. And I happen to wear mine a lot. So not more than my Speedmaster, but I wear it a lot. The Submariner, again, came out in 1954. I personally don't know if it was their answer to the 50 Fathoms or if it was just a coincidence that they had it in the works at the same time. I really don't know the story behind that, but I do know that the 50 Fathoms came out first, and the Submariner was on the wrist of Sean Connery in the first Bond movie, and since then it has become the most iconic watch of all time. That is not disputable in any way, shape, or form. You can't dispute that. Every single person on earth knows. They might not know what it's called, but they know what the Rolex Submariner is. Anyway, that's my top 5 most iconic watches of all time. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. It really helps our channel a lot. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. Peace.